Greetings, one and all, to the most cursed, most cringiest corner of the internet. Our YouTube channel content creator actively alienating everyone in both the analog and digital world. Well, welcome and good evening, you wonderful dice of all alignments. I am Lunar D8, and on my channel, I choose to abbreviate the word segment in a unique way. That being said, the picture for this thumbnail and perhaps a couple others will be, do you remember Super Mario 1? When you would repeatedly jump up and down on a Koopa shell on the early stages. You could get an infinite lives glitch, or at least way more than the counter can normally catch. So much that it can't count it. And so it starts using things that aren't numbers. I've just been using letters, since I have already using numbers for parts. That being said, when we do get to Z, I'm just going to put a Z and then a number behind the Z. And then I'm going to put one of the symbols that would probably be used in place of a number in Mario. Like a bullet bill, or a flower, or a crown, or a pipe. It's like, how many lives do you have? Well, I have half a Starman and a Hammer Brother lives. Let's see, it says Queen of Hearts and Bowsette. Let me know in the comments, who do you think's better, Bowsette, Boozette, or both? Well, let's hop into the story, shall we? I was just looking at OBS, I want to double check it again. OBS chan is fine. I was sure you died. So you survived? No, I did die. Now I'm nothing more than a defeated chess piece loitering outside the chessboard. You're Beato's teacher, right? So in other words, you're a witch too. Yes, that is correct. Tish. So basically, that means witches really do exist, and the only one who can defeat her isn't me. That'd be you, since you can use awesome magic, right? I'm just useless now. There's nothing I can do anymore. Oh my. Have you surrendered completely? What do you mean surrender? How am I supposed to explain that? Towers sprouting and falling? Huge giants holding shields and throwing spears? Just remembering it makes me feel like I'm going insane. We're way past the point of trying to reason this all out, aren't we? We've left the level of tricks and things that can be explained with human culprits. Well, again, I felt everything that was happening up till the giant Gundam battle could be explained. Except for the fact that we're in like a hyperbolic time chamber. Like, we have been through multiple times of deaths, we're through multiple time loops. And not only we died multiple times, not only has everyone died multiple times, not only were we time looping, but also during the main timeline that happens, we keep, dissociating out of reality into a hyperbolic time chamber. Like, that's kind of a difficult thing to explain. Damn it. Calm yourself. I am nothing more than a piece on that child's game board. After being removed from that board, I am no longer being capable of doing anything. But you are that child's opponent. As long as you do not give up on your own, You will always have the power to strike back. Shut up. Weren't you also reciting strange spells and summoning towers and spears? What do you mean, strike back? Are you saying you'll teach me magic too, and make me take part in that massive magic battle? If you wish, I could teach you a bit about magic. Just what I wanted. Please, give me some awesome magic to smash through her chest in one blow. Ha, don't screw with me. I hear that in Japanese magic there is a ceremony used to pray for rain. Is it the Gangnam Style? Oh, Gangnam Style. Oh. And everyone's like, that's Korean. Whatever. Do you know of it? A rain ceremony. That thing where you throw stuff into a fire and dance as an offering. That's not magic. They say that the fire causes an updraft, which makes as rain clouds gather. That's supposed to be an accepted scientific phenomenon. Oh, I believed it to be a form of Eastern magic. But is that not the case? I believed people offered sacred fire to the heavens as well as a dance of respect. So, that your entreaty for rain would reach the hearts of the gods. Maybe people did that long ago, but most occult things like that now have scientific explanation. Why do things burn? Isn't that because I've never heard of that word before. Phlogiston is contained in the material? No, things burn because of a chemical reaction. Lavoisier, I haven't heard that either. Abolish the phlogiston theory. Why does heat transfer through objects? Isn't that because of caloric is contained in the material? Well, no, I think it's just the concept of things of higher pressure tend to flow into things of lower pressure, whether that be air pressure or density or heat. Energy likes to find some sort of stability. Pretty sure that was abolished by Joule. Heat is energy, not a substance. You have studied well. Your knowledge is accurate. It's just some trivia. Phlogiston, caloric, and eventually ether. Where do you pronounce it? Ether. And God's love. All are powerless before a scientific explanation. In the past, I was told that an apple falling from the tree was thanks to God's love, so that humans would be given food. So even gravity is the love of God? Well, that's probably... I mean, technically that makes sense when you think of Dragon Ball Z's Super Tournament Power. I think it was Universe 2 or 3 that was when they used their super forms based off of love as a power source, it increased the gravity on people. Religion rather than science was used to explain everything. I think both is appropriate. That is correct. I think it's important to have a healthy amount of skepticism and a healthy amount of faith. Everything should be able to be explained with science, but there is supernatural, there is magic, there is God, and who knows? We may have aliens one day. And everyone's like, Lunar, why are you imagining the aliens as Busty Futanari and Femboy Catboys? I don't know. Why am I imagining Futa Bowsett or Futa Peach doing lewd things with someone and you're just seeing the one-up symbol above them over and over? That is correct. In the past, humans called the limits of their knowledge, no ignorance itself, magic. Like the rain ceremony we were just talking about. Did the people of ancient times realize that there was a scientific explanation that fire gave rise to heat, cause updrafts that summon clouds? Even without understanding these things, they at least knew the result. That probably happened a lot. That stuff called knowledge of the ancestors. Even without understanding the reason, through long experience they knew that they'd achieve results. Phenomena whose principles they didn't understand were probably the same as magic to them. Like this person just said. Ancient people who didn't understand those principles probably believed that. Through the rain ceremony, their wishes would reach the heavens and make rain fall. To them, that was certainly magic, as long as they didn't understand updrafts. If you push an electrical switch, a light turns on. Children do not know the scientific principles behind why a light bulb lights up. They only know the result when they push the switch. If they obtain such a result without not knowing the principles, doesn't that make it magic to them? That's pretty interesting. Well, logically, that's true. For example, I don't have a clue why brawn tubes in a TV show a picture. Still, I think it's totally normal to see things shown on a TV. We really come a long way since CRT televisions, cathode ray tubes. Even if, heck, the old computer screens used to be like tiny stained glass bricks. Now they're LCD plasma screens. I at least know that if I push the switch, I can watch TV. It's exactly the same as having a rainstorm without understanding updrafts. In other words, if I don't know the principles, even TV is the same as magic. Or even magic itself, I guess. Do you know the structure of brawn tubes? Have you ever taken one apart and looked inside? Nope. I think I read about it in a book or something once, but it was complicated and I didn't have a clue. I think that when electrons hit a fluorescent material, it creates luminescence or something like that. That book lied. Actually, there are small people called gremlins shut up inside the brawn tubes, and they do their work with magic. Huh? Don't be stupid. There's no way that's true. How can you deny it if you have never looked inside a brawn tube? I've never looked inside, but I can say for sure that small people like that definitely don't exist. Since there are no brawn tubes here, that is impossible to prove. It does remind me of several things. You guys remember Galileo, when he was talking about how the Earth goes around the sun? Or the very early people who were, like even a few hundred years ago, discussing the idea of microorganisms and viruses and bacteria. Or even the idea that doctors should wash their hands before surgery. That was looked at as lunacy. Like, there's no such thing as atoms or bacteria. Or, like, if you can't see it with the human eye, it must not exist. And then, of course, now we have superpowered telescopes the size of buildings in outer space looking at other galaxies. And we have very strong microscopes that can, well, see many, many, many times smaller objects than what a person can. We also have things that are launching particles at near light speed toward each other. Like, there's supposed to be some project in France where they're starting to try to build something to harness like a small reaction similar to what the sun is. I mean, if that works, I mean, I guess that's great power, but at the same time, I don't know, if we were to actually succeed at making a small actual, star on the planet, be kind of like, well, if we actually managed to make a black hole. Then again, it's also pretty interesting, that theory that people have. It's a little conspiracy idea that, the Mandela effect stuff didn't start happening until we had the Hadron Collider. But instead of saying Hadron Collider, I want to say Hadron Collider. Now we're imagining gay sex. Have fun with that. It's like we're just imagining. It's like, okay. So here's Ivy from Soul Calibur 2. Now she has a cock and balls. And her tits are somehow bigger. And her hair's longer. Yeah, it's impossible to prove right now. But later, I can take apart a TV somewhere and show you, and instantly win the argument. So, put another way, my magical theory that gremlins are shut up inside the brawn tube and display the picture with magic is impossible to disprove until we can verify the contents of a brawn tube, correct? Erg, what the hell? Is this one of those? Are you trying to say it's a devil's proof? That's a favorite trick of you witches. A devil's proof is a bit of sophistry, one that takes advantage of the fact that negative facts are impossible to prove. However, it's different from my brawn tubes metaphor. That could be resolved simply by taking apart a single television. You're right. It isn't really a devil's proof. You have proposed a scientific theory, and I have proposed a magical one. One of those is the truth, and which one it is can be ascertained the moment you look inside a Braun tube. However, until the instant that happens, we cannot deny each other's theories. So even though only one truth exists, until you look into the Braun tube, you can have two conflicting truths existing at the same time. You have a realm in which two truths can exist simultaneously, even though there must be only one truth in existence. I will say this, can't we have two? Why can't it be possible that we have two different LCD television screens? One that's powered by a scientific principle behind it, and the other that's using some sort of magic to summon otherworldly energy. I'm just saying this, it's not mutually exclusive. You can have magic and science, and have stuff that's literally got a definitive line in between it, to where you can have these things that are done by actual scientific principle, that are things you can prove with equations, and you can actually write with explanations, and the other thing being you're summoning power from some other source or something, or energy. Just saying, you can have both can exist. But like going to a magical world that relies on magic, and you're just like, hey, I'm gonna invent automobiles. It's like, oh, we have flying dragons, whatever. I'm gonna invent cars now. Is the cat in the box alive or dead? I mean, it's probably lonely either way. If you open the box, you will learn the answer. You will learn the truth. However, until you open the box, you can claim the cat is alive, and you can also claim the cat is dead. Both claims are the correct truth according to the people making them. And even though the two sides are in conflict, neither can win the argument as long as the box remains open. In other words, no two truths can exist at the same time. Even though there can only be one cat in the box. It is packed with a living cat and a dead cat, forming a strange separate world. That is what Rockanjima is now. This island is now different from the world where a scientific theory and a magical one can exist at the same time. To a resident of the world of science such as yourself, at a glance it may feel as though this island has been sucked into a world of magic. That might not be wrong, but it is not accurate. Strictly speaking, it has been moved from the world of science to the gap between the world and the world of that world and the world of magic. So, at a glance, it appears as though the world is tilted toward the magical side. But in reality, this island is now a perfectly impartial position, with relation to those of two opposing worlds. It's kind of like saying if you had salted butter and unsalted butter. The salted butter is definitely going to have more salt in it than the unsalted butter, but it's certainly not made entirely out of salt. I don't really get it. The gap between reality and magic. A perfectly impartial world. How's that? Hasn't pretty much everything that's been happening totally not in my favor? Then perhaps you could think of it this way. This is a trial. Think of it as a court where you and Beatrice are laying out opposing claims. I really feel like Battler looks a lot like Phoenix Wright, which I haven't played any of those games. I've seen a lot of clips of them though. Call it a Braun tube trial. Your opponent claims that there are tiny people inside the Braun tubes, explaining one thing after another, talking about the lives of these tiny people, what they look like, what type of magical power they have, and what do you do? Well, I study in a library and argue back by explaining how broad tubes are constructed. At this moment, both your claim and the child's claim exist in the court at the same time. If you find your opponent's claim convincing, it might sound like the truth to you. It might look like the truth to you. That is exactly what you saw. At this moment on Rockanjima, witches and magic certainly may exist as truth. However, until the moment that cat's box is open, the world is an uncertain wave function. The entire situation can be explained by both sides at the same time. However, there is one truth. That set of truths shrinks with observation, and countless truths are weeded out to become one truth. It is like when in court, the judge hands down his judgment. The two truths from the prosecutors and the defense's claims are reduced in number by the judgment and become one. To say it in your words, this island right now is the world right before looking into a bronze tube, right? Therefore, the science theory and the magic theory cannot be denied. And since they cannot be denied, both can exist as truth. Therefore, both witches and magic can exist. However, at the same time, your opinion of denial also exists as truth. It is a world where two conflicting things can exist at once, and it is a world where conflicting truths cannot disprove each other. Have you managed to understand? In other words, no matter how much awesome magic Beato shows me, it's only a claim of magical theory and it doesn't disprove my position. So no matter what kind of magic Beato shows me in this world, it cannot become proof that magic exists. That's right. The child might even try to explain an apple falling from the tree of magic, perhaps the shaking her staff by magically plucking the apple. Are we in a coma? Then claiming to be nothing that made it drop down to the earth. However, that would be nothing more than another claim. None of your opponent's claims can prevent you from making yours. In that sense, this world is quite impartial for both sides. I get it. Still, by that argument, if I show a sound argument with my science theory, and it collides head-on with her magic theory, I also can't win against her. On top of that, the final judgment won't come until we peek into the bronze tube. Where is the bronze tube in this world? Because it exists, there should be no reason for us to argue. Why don't we just get along and peek into the bronze tube? If there really is a tiny person in there, it's my complete loss. Otherwise, it's my victory. Why do we have to hold this debate without looking into the bronze tube? That itself is the game you are being challenged to. Maybe instead of a court, I should use chess as an example. There, victory and loss are not determined by a judge. You who fight will decide it yourselves. Can you win an argument with an opponent in a screwed-up world where multiple truths can exist at the same time? In actual fact, didn't you lose an argument and surrender like this? Heh. Heh heh. So now that we know that we can lose, we just have to make Beatrice do what we did. This is all the advice I can give now. If you wish, I can occasionally offer you counsel. Sure. Thanks. That really helps. I'll avenge you. Oh, thank you. I look forward to it. What's your name? Beatrice used to be my name, but now that I have surrendered it, I do not have a name. So I shall take a temporary name. Virgilius. No, how about Virgilia? Virgilia. Like Valkyria? Wasn't the name for the goddess that show up in the myths? You guys remember Record or Ragnarok? I mispronounced that so fucking bad. Record of Ragnarok. No, it means the guide who leads the way to Beatrice. Oh, we're talking about Virgil. Dante's Inferno. And again, the first thought that came to mind since she went with Virgilius instead of Virgilia, I'm like, is she Futa? Does she have a cock? Who waits at the summit of Mount Purgatory. It ought to be a fitting name for such a guide. Who would have guessed I'd accept help from a witch when I'm trying to deny witches? I see. If this is a contradictory world where different claims can exist at the same time, I guess that's cool. It's almost funny. I mean, yes. I have a book on various paradoxes. I tried to start reading it for a channel, but then, I started doing other things. But yeah. Critical thinking does require being able to think in paradoxes. I'm borrowing that child's words. but you truly are like a phoenix. Your will to fight has already been revived. Come, if your heart is prepared, return to your opponent. Return to the chessboard where that child is seated. I look forward to seeing how far you can fight with my disciple. Yeah, watch it. I won't listen to her babbling anymore. I'll coolly fight to the end. I definitely won't get provoked by her any longer. Then let us return to the seat of battle. To the seat of the battle. Uh-oh, Battler. Where did you run off to? And I thought losers never came back for more. You know, she does kind of look like a long-haired Kyrie, who looks like Ivy from Soul Calibur, also like Kaoru Nagase from Evangelion. A now retired Endless Witch and Beatrice teachers used the Endless Magic properly and devoted her life to the smiles and happiness of many people. She taught Beatrice the Endless Magic, believing that Beatrice would also devote herself to the people, and retired. Though she was Beatrice's teacher, she was also a magician who employed by Beatrice's family. For that reason, she interacted with Beatrice in a manner fitting for a servant. Some point to this as a source of Beatrice's arrogance and recklessness. Well, thanks for joining me, everyone. Try to keep the videos under half an hour. Bye.